So I don't think I've laughed more during an interview than with my guest today. I first got to know Nick Bueno through the game of basketball. And over the years, I've grown to admire the courage that he has to speak his mind. He does this through many mediums. He does stand up comedy. He has hosted podcasts in the past. And now with his new project, The Bueno Report, which is a 6 to 8 minute uh, news type monologue that just, if you haven't checked it out, YouTube The Bueno Report. I really enjoy the conversation with Nick, often because he puts out opinions or at least asks the questions that I think a lot of people ask, but maybe just too scared, for lack of a better word, to put out there. And I've I make sure I let him know that I find it very courageous what he's doing. One thing to note about this interview is I wanted Nick to be his true, authentic self with it. And with that comes a little bit of strong language, some subject matter that may not usually be in one of these things. So, Mom, if you're watching this, you've been warned. That being said, I really appreciate Nick taking the time, and here is a conversation with Nicholas Bueno. I am joined now with the man who probably has caused me to laugh more in the last 6 months than any other person in the city, Nicholas Bueno. Bueno, how are you today?
I'm great. I do my best.
And first and foremost, I think that first question I have for you is you're starting a new project, the Bueno
Yes.
Report. What was the story behind that and getting that going?
Honestly, so what happened was the podcast folded, unfortunately. We were planning on Winnipeg's Finest, by the way, check it out, some of the old episodes. The last part of the reason, yeah, Matt was on it. It was great, episode 99. No, towards the end, we are kind of running out of steam just with the whole shtick of interviewing people around the city. Like we did over 130 episodes. And after a while, I could kind of feel I was just plugging my own jokes. Like I think I talked about like eating cum or whatever, like the 3 times in the last 5 episodes. I'm like, yeah, there's no way people actually want to listen to this. If this is the brand, that's not going to work. And we had planned to close it down like in the spring of 2021. We were just, Kanan was dealing with burnout. I want to move to Toronto in 2021. So he's like, man, fuck it. Let's just end this. Like, this is not worth our time. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I was actually planning on cutting my social media, like just dropping Instagram. Only I work for a social media company, so I have to have Instagram for work.
Yeah.
But I was thinking of just like keeping my clients' accounts up and then like cutting mine. And I got this course. It's called Comedy Business School by Scott Dickers. A bunch of people be like, oh, you can't learn how to do comedy. Shut up. And one of the things he was talking about was like, who are your comedy role models? What do they do? And what can you use from that to spur your own career? And I was like, okay, well, some of my biggest influences are, Joe Rogan's podcast, obviously, Tom Segura, like he's my favorite comedian and he's built like a podcast empire with his wife, and then Andrew Schultz. And I was thinking like, okay, well, I just ended the podcast. I don't want to just start one now. If I'm going to start a podcast, I need to actually like put time into it and I want to be proud of it. I'm not just going to start one for the sake of starting one. And then I was like, well, Andrew Schultz used to do those monologues. He did 17 in the summertime and like early spring, late summer. 17 they were hilarious. I loved them. I was like, why don't I just do that? I love writing and I think it'd be something cool to kind of put in my comedy portfolio and put on my resume and have to show people. And I really believe in my writing. Like that's kind of where I think I struggle with the stand-up form of like set them up, knock them down. But I think if I can kind of like slip in digs and use like the visual props per se, like the pictures and kind of the subtle jokes, that's where I thrive. And so it's been going pretty well. We released 2 episodes of the Bueno Report. First one was How Do Manitobans Deal with Code Red? And then the second one was To Shame or Not to Shame, talking about the guy from Aspect Fitness. If you don't know what that is, Google search that, Aspect Fitness Winnipeg. And talking about Harry Styles wearing a dress on cover of Vogue magazine, and AOC asking people to take names of Trump supporters, which I thought was asinine.
Yeah, that sums it up very well. And
thank you.
After the first episode, I know I posted on my social media just the fact that just simply speaking in front of people takes courage, but it takes a whole nother level of courage to speak about things that might be considered taboo or at least controversial.
Mm-hmm.
So I saluted you for that, and
Thank you.
now I get to say that to you kind of in person.
I appreciate that. There's with somebody with my kind of track record of having Catholic guilt and my parents being immigrants who said just shut the fuck up and stay in line. I really must want to be hated just from like the things that I say. I could never shut up in school, and I could never stop myself from doing something out there. If there was ever a project where it's like, oh, this is a big responsibility and you might get slandered for it, I always had something in my chest that was like, you have to do this. If you don't do this, you're a bitch. Like, you need to do this now. Like, I remember in grade 11 at St. Paul's, I almost got kicked out of school for winning a speech competition. So, one, kiss the ring. Two, I just said the word asshole, and teachers were super pissed. They were like, by the way, just to toot my own horn here, because this is necessary, I was one of the very few people who won 2 out of 3 years, grade 9 and grade 11, and I was in it in grade 10. So I was a 3-time finals appearance, 2 championships. I didn't get the three-peat. Nobody's ever done the three-peat. Fuck. But anyways, I said everybody's a bit of an asshole in a speech, and the principal was like, did you know somebody's grandmother was watching her grandson in the speech competition? She had to hear you use that foul language. I was like, bro, she's 80. If she hasn't heard the word asshole, like, I don't know what to tell you at this point. And he was like, and they almost gave me a charge slip, which would have kicked me out of school. Anyways, I'm going way too off on this. But I guess my point is, like, I've always had a knack for, if I think something's funny or if I think something's worth saying, there's that voice in my head's like, you need to say that now. And I'm like, that might piss people off. Like, just do it anyway.
Yeah, and then, like, people who are watching this know that, like, that's not my style of comedic timing or vocabulary of choice.
Yeah.
But, like, I knew wholeheartedly what was going to happen the second I had Bueno on this thing, and I would not ask him to be anything but his authentic self. So
yeah, I always like.
Sorry, Mom, if you're watching.
Yeah, sorry, Mrs. Dick. I'm not a good influence. I just, like, when I was in high school, I remember thinking to myself, like, I loved writing, so I was like, I want to be a journalist. I'm so glad I'm not a journalist or like working for a news station, because I would try to outthink the room in some stupid way, do something dumb, get somebody in trouble, and then they'd be like, why the fuck did you do that? I'd be like, I thought it was funny, or like, I thought it was a good idea. And that's not a good excuse, so I'd get fired. Like, I remember once my buddy this is so bad, like, this is not even funny, but it's okay, I'll just tell you. So this is like 3 years ago. My buddy he asked me, I was at like a party, and I'm blurring the details so that people don't know what it is, even though there's no way they could track this down. But I was at a party and his grandma was there, and he's like, have you ever met my grandma? I was like, no. And he's like, oh. And this wasn't like a house party. I just doing danger can with his grandma. But he was like, do you have any questions for somebody with 106 years of life experience? And the first thing that popped in my head, I was like, do not say that. And I said it anyway. And the first things out of my mouth were, what's menopause like? She looked horrified.
I'm sure she did.
All I can say, I was like, I actually want to know, like, what's it like? And yeah, she gave me a dirty look and walked away. But that's, I'm sure you know this, just in terms of basketball, when you get somebody who can get really hot in a second, there are also some stretches early in their career where they get really cold and their shot selection is not good. And you're like, you're super dumb. But then as they mature, hopefully they turn it around, or they become Dion Waiters and just become a folktale.
That's one way of putting it. I was kind of curious of what was the origin story of actually going out and trying to do stand-up comedy.
Well, I mean, as you guys know at this point, I'm an attention whore and I love making people laugh. I think there's no greater rush in the world than getting multiple people to laugh at something that you said that was original. And I remember when we first started doing the podcast in 2018, we had on my buddy Spencer Adamus. He's a comedian. He's so funny, at comedy_man_Spencer. Give him a follow. Great guy. And he had us in tears when we had him on. And I was like, I got to try stand up. Like, I need to. I've always kind of wanted to do it. Like, kind of. I never really gave too much thought into it. But when he told us, like, yeah, you can do stand up in the city, it's super easy. Just sign up and go. I was like, yeah, I need to do this. And then I just fell in love with the process. And there we go.
And there we go. Was it I'm not gonna say therapeutic in a way, but like, was it just a new stage? Because you'd gone from growing up as like a basketball player, that's where we first met each other.
Yeah.
Was it almost like another stage to perform on once basketball had stopped?
Well, it's like, I don't know. I try not to be, and like who I am as a person, I'm not like at all in terms of talking trash with basketball. So if anybody thinks like I was the kind of guy who was like drawing at dudes all game, no, that wasn't me. Because I always felt like I kind of felt bad if I did it. I was like, oh, now I gotta back this up. That sucks. Why don't I just play and then not worry about that? But like with basketball, I always loved to challenge. So my parents would always get mad at me when I'd go to tryouts and like I'd guard the best kid in the gym and I'd always like hunt out the best kids and play with them. And sometimes I would get my ass kicked because I was not nearly good enough to hang with them. But my parents were like, why do you keep doing that? I'm like, because how else am I supposed to get better if I just rip kids worse than me? That's I hate doing it. It's boring to me, honestly. I don't like doing it. They're like, yeah, but you're gonna get cut from teams. I'm like, okay, and I'm gonna get cut from teams regardless. I might as well go out swinging. And so like with comedy, it's this a similar grind because it's like there are a lot of people out there who are funnier than I am for sure. And I know that. And there's a lot of people who are doing it more than me. However, it's that same kind of like burning passion of like when I see somebody go up on kill, it's like, yeah, I want to get to that level. Like I want to get to the point where I'm making people laugh like that. And I want to keep writing every day. And I need to keep looking things up. And I need to keep kind of pushing the boundaries of what I know to be the craft and the writing process.
What do you think the relationship between truth and humor is?
I mean, it doesn't have to be true to be funny, right? Like sometimes you could just talk bullshit and be lying and just, but then again, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but I think there needs to be a little bit of truth in it. Because if I just said like, yeah, Matt Dick's obese, like, and like made fun of you for being overweight, that's not true at all. That's not funny because he's clearly not obese, you know? So I guess there has to be some truth in it. But at the same time, it doesn't need to be like, I don't know. I feel like I'm giving the worst answer ever. There needs to be truth. Yeah, I'll just give you that. I'll cut myself off now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking because the stuff that I laugh the most at from your stuff is some of the things that I'm thinking or at least have crossed my mind, but I don't feel comfortable putting them out into the world.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that there's people like you that are willing to put out those thoughts into the world for me.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's something I've gotten that a lot. Even like when I transferred high schools, a lot of people, when I first started like trying to make friends, they're like, wow, you say a lot of the weird shit I think about. I'm like, and like, how do you say it? I'm like, I just don't have a filter. Like, it's not like I have this gift. I just have bad social skills.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it. Another thing that I touched on in a video recently was my own lack of dating success. And I've said that one of the catalysts for me trying to improve that was the fact that you had put out there that you had done like a program or you'd gone through a course of to improve in that area of your life. Yeah. I was wondering what was the catalyst behind that, or what was your thought process going into it? Like, did you think it was going to work, or
have you ever struck out a bunch? And you're like, fuck this.
Yeah,
that's it. Much. Yeah. Like when you just keep, okay, let me put it to you like this. And then this will make sense. Cause every guy I tell, I'm like, yeah, I got this program on how to learn how to be better with women. They always like scoff and roll their eyes and like, oh, I don't want to be like that guy who needs a program. Let me put it to you like this. Did you ever have like your dad tell you how to get with girls?
Nope.
Did you ever have an older brother to tell you how to get with girls?
Nope.
Older cousin?
No, sir.
Friends?
An older friend, but the difference being is because the context of my growing up being church-based was it changes the perception of dating for someone like myself.
So it couldn't have been more than like one or two older guys, and they don't exactly.
It was just one.
There you go, one guy, and he doesn't exactly know your personality maybe as well as you want him to.
Yeah.
He doesn't maybe necessarily know the game as well as you want him to. He doesn't maybe have the same goals as you. Like, let's say you're trying to look like, yeah, I really want to date a nice girl. Like, I really want to build the relationship with somebody. And he's like, yeah, I have like 50 bodies. So yeah, that's those two outcomes don't line up. So the advice you're getting from him do not line up. So here's the analogy I'm going to give to you. You're a basketball player. You never go to practice. You never work on your game. And you suck. Is there any like curiosity as to how that happened?
No, sir.
No, right? So it's like, and then here's the other analogy. And I know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, you bought a course? Like that sounds pickup artistry. Like, and those guys are D-bags, obviously. Like Roosh V and all those fucks. I don't know any of the other ones. I just know Roosh V because my buddy mentioned to him once on a podcast. But let's say you decide to get a trainer and you get a trainer and he's like, oh, Matt, like, dude, you're going to have the greatest post game in the province. You are going to just like body kids down low. And you're like, that's nice, but I'm a point guard. Like, that's nice to have, obviously. Like, that'd be great if I had a mismatch, but like, you're what, 5'11"? Like, that, how often are you going to get a 5'9" guy in the block? Like, never.
Not particularly often.
Right. So he's like, oh, you're going to have the best drop step. Like, you're going to look like Hakeem. And you're like, hey, well, but this doesn't line up with what I want. And if I was one of those guys who just wanted to go out and like manipulate girls into sleeping with them, which I'm not, those weird pickup artistry courses would have worked. Like, I would have been so happy, being like, yeah, let me trick people into liking me, not even liking me, just having sex with me, because that's better. Right. So it's like, no, I don't want to do that. So I remember my buddy, him and I have known each other for 4 years now. Yeah. And when we first met, he told me about this program he took called The Social Man. And I was like, oh, that kind of sounds like manipulative. I don't want to do that. And he was like, no, dude, you should read it. Trust me. It's dope. And I was like, nah. And I read it a bit and I was like, oh, no, I don't really like it. And I just never did it. In like 2019, yeah, I struck out so hard a couple times in a row, like 3 times in a row. I was like, yo, fuck this. Like, what I'm doing is clearly not working. And I've never been somebody who's just like got it like that with chicks. So I could just like pull up, be the most interesting person in the room. If I ever had interest from women, it was because I wasn't trying to get interest from women. I know people are like, oh, well, that's how you do it. It's like, no, but you also need to know how to close, right? Like, you can't just pull up at a basketball game and be athletic. Like, you need to know how to score. You need to know how to pass. You need to know how to finish around the rim. Like, oh, dude, if you're athletic and longer than people, that's how you score. Like, no, that's not how you score. That helps. That you definitely have a bigger, like a better
advantage.
Yeah, an advantage than other people, right? Oh, I'm tall. I have an athletic build. I'm confident. I love to make people laugh and talk. That's great. There's other things that go into getting with somebody romantically, obviously, right? It's not just make them laugh. At some point, you got to close the deal. At some point, you got to express yourself intimately. At some point, you need to have difficult conversations. At some point, you need to listen to them. At some, all these different things. It's not just, oh, okay, show up, get them to laugh, and then if you have some kind of game, make out with them. If you have some kind of game, have sex with them, because like, that is the empty calorie dating life. This is me going way too hard into basketball Twitter, into dating, right? Like, that's being Hassan Whiteside of dating. Like, yeah, I get rebounds and blocks and points, but you're bad at the sport. Like, wouldn't put you on the court if my life depended on it, right? So when I look more into this program, and my philosophy is, I don't want to sleep with people that I don't like. Right. And I've been very fortunate to kind of have that strong internal compass and terrible game to not let me break away from my morals when I wanted to. It's not like, oh, I'm really horny this weekend, I'm going to go hook up with this chick and my game's super good, so I can do that. It's like, even if I wanted to do that, I couldn't. So I'm kind of pigeonholed into my morals, which is nice. It's not like I wanted to get with chicks and I couldn't, and I was just super mad. It's like, oh, this is good because I'm not going against my values. But at the same time, like, when an opportunity strikes, I'm going to need to know how to get that down. Right. So yeah, I had a couple of moments that went bad, and the program, basically the thesis of the program was, you want to increase your value as a man so much that other women want to be around you. It's not about going out chasing and like scoring numbers and having sex with chicks. And I mean, obviously there's some things in there that I wasn't really interested in. It's like, oh, if you want to run up your numbers, like, I'm good. But it also teaches you how to, like, it taught you how to, be more comfortable with your body, and how to portray open body language, and how to carry on conversation. Because it's one thing to just be confident and talk and make people laugh. It's another thing to ask interesting questions. It's another thing to be charming and captivating, right? Like, you can't just again, same thing. You can't just have a 48-inch vertical and a 7-foot wingspan and, oh, this is an NBA player. No, because you might end up with, I don't know, who's a shitty basketball player who was long and could jump. Darius Miles there. That's a huge throwback. If anybody remembers Darius Miles, you can't just have natural skill, right? So I bought this course, and it was talking about like igniting your, and they're so cheesy, the names that they use, like ignite your life and ignite what you want to do. And most of what they talked about, like like, who do you want to be and what do you want your life to look like? And then it'd be like, oh, when you're talking with a girl and this is how you escalate physicality, right? Like, this is how you listen to them and get better answers out of them. And like, as nerdy as it sounds, like every guy I tell this, they're like, oh, like I don't need a program. Like, what am I, some loser? Every woman I've told, by the way, I bought a course on how to talk better to women and be a better romantic partner and interest. They're all super interested. They're like, wow, like, what did you learn? I'm curious to know what.
Exactly.
Right. I've never talked to a woman who's like, that was dumb. Why did you do that?
Yeah.
Maybe I haven't met any, right? Like, I find it super hard to believe that every single woman would be like, oh, that's so amazing. But the majority of them do that, right? Like, I remember after I did that course, immediately I went on a couple of days with this girl, and we ended up dating for 9 months. And she's like, that's super interesting. And then when we broke up, I remember getting another course and doing the course. I remember watching that video, and then that's how I started seeing this one girl briefly after my ex and I broke up. And then I remember watching another video, and then there was another opportunity that came up that is still currently going on, but I'm very mysterious about my dating life, so you didn't hear me say that. But yeah, it's the same kind of thing, right? Like, where how I compared the basketball and the comedy, it's the same kind of, it's a different grind, but the same kind of things go into it. Like, if you don't try to get better, and if you don't learn, and if you don't apply yourself, then you can't expect to get better. It's the same thing with dating.
No, that you being like vulnerable enough to like state that you had done that actually got me to think, I'm like, oh shit, like this is something that I should probably try.
Yeah.
So I looked into the Social Man, and then a mutual friend, Matt Koenig, found a guy that I resonated with at least a little bit. And yeah, I definitely see the value that it's provided me, at least.
Oh yeah, of course. And it's just like, some of the things they say sound so simple, but I'm like, and I remember telling my brother some of this stuff, and he's like, dude, how did you not know how to do this? It's like, because nobody told me. He's like, well, you didn't need to pay to get that. It's like, clearly I did, because you weren't fucking telling me. You know what I mean? It's like, if this was so easy, how come you never told me?
Yeah, if it was such common sense.
Yeah, maybe he did tell me, and it was my brother, so I didn't want to listen. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's just things that they say, or I'm like, even because sometimes I can be a bit timid, shocking, when it comes to romance, and they're like, oh, if you do this, like, this is kind of bold and a little bit assertive, but like, if you do it in the right way, and if they get mad, then you just apologize, be like, oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't going for that. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
who would have known?
And I think what it allows you to do is it allows you to carry yourself with like actual confidence. Like, you don't like, it's not like they're telling you to go project the confidence, like what you said to yourself. It's like, you're supposed to build value yourself. Like, you're supposed to work on yourself to the point that you're no longer projecting confidence. You just carry yourself with confidence.
Yeah, you're not posturing, right? You're not posturing or like have this fake bravado. It's just like, I like who I am, and I want people to want to be excited about being in my life, because I want to be excited to be a part of theirs, right? Remember, so I try to look up bad reviews on the Social Man just because I was curious. Like, anything I like, I want to see what people are saying about to shit on it, just because like maybe there's something I'm missing. I looked it up, and this one guy's like, this guy's a liar. He just has all these, like, he's lying to you to get with these beautiful women. There are no beautiful women in your town. I was like, okay, this guy immediately missed the point. There's no way there are no attractive women where you live. And if there aren't, oh, fuck, man, that sucks. Yeah, that does. Move. Like, that blows chunks if there are no attractive women where you live. Like, that seriously sucks. But he's like, oh, he doesn't give you actually good tips. He didn't say anything about the program. He just made fun of the guy personally. I was like, did you use it? Anyways. But yeah, no, it was great. It was great. I'm a huge advocate for it. I will not accept any Social Man slander ever.
Last thing here.
Yeah, sure.
You have been a voracious reader this past year.
Yes.
And what are your book 35 so far?
34 on my
34 on 34. and this might be a tough one, but you have to pick 3 books that you are going to read again next year.
Let me grab my list. I'm not sure if I'll read them again next year just because I have ADHD. I have no idea if I have ADHD or not. But let me look at my books.
Okay.
The 3 best books I've read this year. Let's go with that. Because actually I might read some of these again. I don't know. Okay. There's 34. My current book is Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. Okay. The 3 best books I read this year. Okay. I'm gonna go with The Righteous Mind, Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion by Jonathan Haidt. I'm going to go with, there's so many good ones. Fuck you for making me pick 3. The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. Should I choose another Haidt book? The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. The other ones that I was going to say were The Coddling of the American Mind by Greg Lukianoff and Jonathan Haidt. So You've Been Publicly Shamed by John Ronson is fucking incredible. And then I was going to say I Used to Be a Miserable Fuck, but that's about a book about how to be a good man. So I'm not sure if I would recommend that to everybody. But if you are a man, read I Used to Be a Miserable Fuck by John Kim. That is amazing.
And on that note, like I said at the beginning of this, I am very much appreciative of you for being your authentic self and for not deciding to delete your social media and
Thank you.
Being able to continue to share that with all of us who happen to follow you.
Of course. Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate you listening to me. It means the world.
Very, very good. Have a great rest of the night, sir.